Morning, everyone. It is Monday, November 25th. I'm John Weigell here with Tory, Bullock, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. You might have noticed your local bank has a new addition to its offerings, coffee and pastries. Quite a few banks across the U.S. have started integrating cafes into their brick-and-mortar locations. So why are bank cafes popping up like crazy, and what's the strategy behind offering some coffee in a bank? We'll answer those questions with the help of Tory Bullock, who produced a video on these bank cafes for the Hustle YouTube channel. But before that, let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. All right, first up, everybody, Amazon is continuing to go all in on its AI capabilities. It already invested $4 billion in AI startup Anthropic, but now they're going to add another $4 billion to that pile. In this next phase, Anthropic will primarily use Amazon Web Services to train its AI models. Next, DirecTV terminated its deal to acquire EchoStar's satellite TV business, and that includes their rival Dish TV. The merger, had it gone through, would have formed one of the largest pay TV companies in the U.S. with 20 million combined subscribers, but Dish no more. From there, we go on to some retail news. Gap, among other retailers, was thought to be pretty bogged down this year by warm weather and hurricanes in Q3. But the company behind Banana Republic, Old Navy, and more is actually performing well beyond average. It's expecting fiscal 2024 sales to be up between 1.5% and 2%, and quarterly sales also rose to $3.83 billion, and that's up from $3.78 billion in 2023. Not that bad. Speaking of some retail, the National Retail Federation projected holiday sales for 2024 will reach almost $1 trillion. That's a 3.5% increase over the last year's financial number, largely thanks to another frenzied week, or more than a week, depending on who you are, of Black Friday sales. And finally, musical Wicked forecasted $117 million for its opening weekend. That's the third highest domestic opening this year, just behind Deadpool and Wolverine and Inside Out 2. Now, Gladiator 2 also earned a projected $60 million. These numbers are pretty positive, considering that Wicked and Gladiator 2 cost $150 million and $250 million to make, respectively, not to mention a complete marketing avalanche of Wicked merchandise and Gladiator 2's $2 million last-minute ad buy. That was really crazy. We talked about that this last week. Okay, so today we're joined by Tory, who's here to tell us why so many banks now have cafes and bank strategies going forward with physical locations. Hey, Tory, welcome back. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. As always, it's a pleasure to be here to break down this topic.
Yes. I feel like every time you come on here, you've just gone on some wild deep dive adventure. So I'd love to know from your perspective how you kind of stumbled upon the banks and cafes, because before this video, I actually didn't know that was happening. And after I watched it, now I kind of see them everywhere.
Yeah, really, this came to me as organically as a topic could possibly come to me because I'm literally just walking down the street and I just start seeing these bank cafes everywhere. Just come on in and we have piping hot coffee. And I had never gone in up until the point where I started kind of digging into this video, but I just started noticing a trend popping up throughout my lovely city of Boston where banks were creating these interesting hybrids.
Yeah, I've been noticing them around New York too. And it's crazy how I didn't even think about that before you mentioned it. But what banks were you mainly seeing that were implementing this strategy? And was there one that was doing it more so than others?
Oh, yeah. So there's kind of like the big mothership of this trend, and that is Capital One. Capital One, they currently have, I believe, 50 plus cafe style branches throughout the US. And when it comes to America, they're kind of like the giant when it comes to setting this trend, but it's also gone international. Santander also has a bunch of locations throughout America, but also throughout Europe. And CaixaBank is another one that's kind of making the rounds globally.
Wow. So yeah, there are a few that are doing it, it sounds like. Capital One, over 50 bank cafe locations is insane. They've really invested a lot in that. And you got to go to one of these in person too, as I saw in the videos. What did you kind of make of it? Was it kind of weird and sterile like a bank, or was it kind of welcoming? How did you vibe with it?
Dude, honestly, it was like Mac Store vibes.
Ooh, okay.
It felt like I wanted to get an iPod or something. But it's funny because when you go in, right, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be a cafe and a bank. Let's see how this works out. But you go in and they have kind of this ambassador that's not a teller, but it's more like a friend that's just like, hey, welcome to the team. If you need anything, I'm around. It's like, okay. And then if you just want to get some coffee, you can just go to the cafe and you'll notice that all the seating is just this open seating. There aren't too many booths or come to the teller window. Gone are those days. This is all about come, hang out, chill, relax, grab a coffee, some pastries. And the funniest part about all of it, honestly, was how convenient the service was.
Oh,
I walked in, I got a cappuccino and a pastry, and I had that thing within maybe 60 seconds.
Whoa.
It was pretty good. The coffee was okay. That has been another major sticking point of all these cafe bank locations is the quality of the coffee. The one I went to was pretty good.
In order to get people to hang out at a bank, you probably need to give them at least some good coffee, maybe a pastry. Did you notice in your research any indication that these banks that have cafes actually bring in more foot traffic?
Yeah, actually, that was a very interesting part of my research. This whole bank cafe thing sounds great in theory, but at the end of the day, for anyone in the business world, what were the results? Like, what did this drive for business? Right. And Capital One actually saw a 26% increase in foot traffic by 2021 compared to pre-pandemic levels, because everything naturally kind of went down for the pandemic, but they saw a massive increase a few years after they first initially started opening these bank cafes.
Wow. That's pretty interesting that they would decide to kind of go full in on this idea, because when I think about banks, I am like, do not bring me there. It is always my last resort when I have a problem with my bank to actually show up to the bank and take care of it there. I'm always calling a customer service rep, doing something in the app. So do you think it's a smart thing to invest in people coming to a physical location nowadays when mobile banking is doing so well?
Absolutely. While mobile banking is doing incredibly well, and we all have the app on our phone and are handling transactions in a digital world now more than ever. But in my research, not only are there still some things that people prefer to do in a physical bank branch, there are services that the bank branch really kind of profits on that they don't really profit on in a digital world. For a bank, even though we love doing mobile banking, chances are you don't want to take out a major loan or handle mortgages or stuff like that on your phone or even over your computer.
Very true.
And what they realize is that people want to come into a physical branch to handle those types of transactions. And because those are kind of heavy duty transactions, they need to have a physical branch for people to come into to actually do them.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I kind of just think about the snail mail I get from banks all the time. Like, here's a loan. Do you want to talk about taking out a mortgage? I don't think I would ever do any of that through, as you were saying, like a message or through the internet or something like that. But I would feel a lot more comfortable if there was an actual person there guiding me through the process. So I guess that's what they're hoping. Hanging out at these cafes or having a reason to come to the branch means that they can eventually sell you on these other things, maybe create a community. Am I kind of in the ballpark there?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of this is foot traffic and using the bank branch as kind of a living billboard. Even though there's a decline in people using physical branches, the bank branch still wants to let you know we are here and we are able to meet any type of need that you want. So if you need us to be a coffee shop where you can come and hang out, come on down and hang out. Essentially, they're hoping that every time you come in there and you start drinking this coffee and you have this great time there, when you do need the services of that bank, you come there for that, because these are the people that you remember. Like I said, the ambassador that says hi to me when I first walked in, he wants to play the role of my friend. And I'm going to think of my friend when I want to start getting into the world of mortgages. Instead of thinking of some big intimidating person at a financial institution, I can just think of that guy at that coffee shop that I pass every day, X, Y, and Z, you know?
Yeah, it kind of humanizes the product. That makes a lot of sense. You talk a lot about brand awareness as well being a big factor in this, and you definitely dive into that more into the video. So anybody who's listening, go check that out. You talk about Chase in particular, adding more branches over time and what their whole strategy is. But I guess my last question here for you is, did it feel weird hanging out in a bank cafe that I assume you're not like a customer of that bank? So would you say that people would even go into a cafe in a bank without being a customer for the bank?
Honestly, I had that same question before I started this. Like, how much do people really want to hang out in a bank?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, once I got in there, it didn't feel like a bank. It really felt like a Starbucks or any neighborhood coffee shop I would go walk into to get some work done and just pop over my laptop. It didn't feel like there was a lot of pressure. No one was pushing opening an account on you or anything. It is interesting, though, because when you're sitting down and you're in this world, you feel very comfortable like you are at a Starbucks. But then you start looking at some of like the words and kind of the signage that they have up, and all this stuff is kind of these interesting coffee puns that have to do with, the world of banking and such. So,
okay. Wow.
It was definitely a very comfortable atmosphere that was actually packed too. Wow. I don't know how many people were doing banking, but a lot of people were drinking coffee.
Wow. Pretty nice. I mean, pretty good for the bank, too, if they can get people attracted into their bank with, maybe just saying that the coffee at the bank is better than the Starbucks next door. That's a way to bring people in, I feel like.
Absolutely. And another interesting thing is that you go in, if you open up an account, guess what? You get 50% off on that $10 coffee that we're selling.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, you get 50% off of some pretty decent coffee. And another interesting thing is just to think about there are areas that may not have a neighborhood coffee shop, or may not have the quality one. So for some places, not only is this your only neighborhood bank, but this may be your only neighborhood coffee shop.
Wow. They're like one-stop shopping the bank, and I'm kind of here for it. That's fascinating.
Have you been inside one yet, John?
No, I haven't. As I've said, I've seen them pop up, but, never ventured inside. Usually they're not in the bank that I have, so I get weird about it. I'm like, I don't want to go in that bank. But maybe I will now. Maybe I'll give it a try. Maybe I'll see how it is.
Yeah, you definitely should. And this isn't an ad for them or anything, but you actually don't have to have an account with them. You don't have to bank with them at all. You just walk in, just grab a pastry if you want, and walk right out.
Nice. Get that branded Capital One latte, maybe.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for hanging out, Tory. It's been great talking to you. And for anybody listening, go check out Tory's video on the Hustle YouTube channel. He talks a little bit more about bank branches and how physical locations are actually doing pretty well for banks. So thanks, Tory.
No problem. As always, until next time, goodbye, y'all.
Till next time. All right, and that'll do it for us today, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor is Robert Hartwig. Our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a ton more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get signed up at thehustle.co/email and throw us a follow on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We'll catch you tomorrow.